We had a question from a listener. Trevor, he sent in an email. He said that he's interested in the helium space. There's been a number of comments on business channels about the lack of helium for industrial and medical purposes. There are a number of stocks exploring the helium production. He asked if we've been following this group of companies, and two that he mentioned are Royal Helium and First Helium, among others. What are our thoughts? So yes, apparently helium is not just for balloons. Big surprise. So what is it for? Well, let's just take a look at Helium Fundamentals 101. So helium is a gas with unique physical and chemical properties. It's very light. It's also, it can withstand very low temperatures without changing form. So this makes it a very valuable commodity. And areas where it's used, critical sectors would include healthcare technology, aerospace. It's used in MRI machines. It's used at a lot of universities for tests that are done at very low temperatures. In terms of production, there are two countries in the world that produce 85% of helium, and these are Qatar and the United States. However, US production is in decline, while the demand for helium is expected to continue to grow. So the forecasts really vary, but around the 5 to 6% compound annual growth range in terms of demand over the next 5 years. Now, one thing is that helium is not publicly traded on an exchange. It's privately traded between businesses. So this makes the pricing data more difficult to obtain. And certainly pricing is going to vary depending on where helium is being traded, in what quantities, and then the quality of the helium. One thing that I'm going to warn people, if you just Google helium price chart, there is a cryptocurrency called Helium, and that's really what's going to come up 99% of the time. So don't be duped by that. Make sure you're actually searching for the gas if you're doing some research. But right now, helium prices are at all-time highs, and this is due to a number of factors, including that gradually increasing demand, also supply chain issues. One of the things that have been mentioned is Russia and the war in Ukraine, and as well declining production. So if we look at the distribution of production here, we can see right at the top of the list, Qatar and the United States accounting for the vast majority of production. And then in terms of helium demand, well, we can see that balloons are on the list, and actually balloons do make up 10% of helium demand, but healthcare, MRIs, that's 22%, semiconductor manufacturing, 19%, welding, aerospace. So it's quite an array of different use cases, many of which are critical. Of course, I'm referring to balloons, but essentially, it's a critical, essential commodity for many sectors. Now, looking around for pricing information, as I said, it's very difficult to come across that information. I found a few resources. One here on the Oregon Group website shows a price chart going back to the 2020s. So we can see at the start of the year, prices were around like $350, and then towards mid-year they were upwards around $500. But according to research, depending on who you're talking to, some people are paying prices far in excess. So helium prices are at all-time highs, with a number of commentators reporting helium spot prices between 2,000 to 3,000 per million cubic feet. So it's definitely been a boom in this market. But of course, the listener's question was about how do we invest, and he brought up two companies. So I'm going to really quickly take a look at these two companies. First one is Royal Helium. I pulled up the income statement of this company. I'm going to take a hard pass on this right away. What you can see here on the income statement, first of all, there is no revenue line. So this company does not generate revenue. If you go to its website, it will say that it has a resource, one of the largest resources of undeveloped helium in Canada. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they're not generating a dime of revenue right now, never mind profitability. So about 246 million shares already, pre-revenue company, we would just consider this a speculation. I don't know enough about the properties to really assign it any value, but they're certainly not producing at this time. And then the second company, a little bit better, First Helium. There's marginal revenue, about 265,000 in revenues for the last quarter, but that's very minimal revenue. The company's still losing a lot of money. And one thing that I will note is that First Helium, they're really actually primarily an oil producing company. Although they market themselves as a helium company, I don't believe that there's any meaningful helium production yet. So these revenues are actually from oil production. I believe it's light sweet crude. So they did talk about achieving 100,000 barrels, but that's cumulative over the lifetime of the company. So really, they've not been producing any type of meaningful revenue. You can see revenue here is actually down from the previous year, 1.9 million, down to 265,000 in revenue in the most recent quarter. So this, again, we would consider this a complete speculation. Now, maybe they are able to develop a property, but that has yet to be seen. Share price performance has been very poor on this company. I think that investors, if they want to take an intelligent approach, could just basically wait for some positive, tangible news before they get into the stock. Now, I know that that the listener was really hoping that I would come up with some good helium recommendations. I did look around at what some other options were in the market in terms of actual producers of helium. It really I wasn't able to find any companies that were producing helium profitably at a significant rate. So all the companies that I found in the production side were really actually exploration companies. Now there are helium processing companies. One of those would be Lind PLC, which is actually a major chemical manufacturer. It's a company that trades on the NASDAQ 100, so it is going to be part of our NASDAQ 100 report. But helium, again, it's not a major part of its business. It's not really moving the needle for it because it's far from a pure play helium producer. So unfortunately, right now, most of the actual producers are private. So in terms of an investment category, there's really limited options. And the vast majority of stocks that I see are just speculative exploration companies. I hope they do transition into actual production at some point. But you're really just gambling buying these stocks right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I'm a little familiar with Royal Helium's projects, but again, like you said, it's a project company, or it's not even really a company yet.
What's your familiarity with them then?
Well, just understanding or just knowing that they have one project in Climax, Saskatchewan.
Where's that again?
It's basically just above Montana. It's pretty close to the border.
What's the
And
place
then they
called,
also
though?
have another project in Alberta, which is supposedly going to be in a plant that's supposedly going to be coming online in the second half of the year. So we might see revenue start to come along. However, like Aaron said, just because they're now all of a sudden producing helium doesn't mean that they're going to be profitable doing it. They still need to prove to us, or at least for our investment criteria, that they could do that before.
Yeah, let's see some production. Let's see what that looks like in terms of revenue and earnings, and then go
Yeah,
from there.
exactly. And like I was saying, their project in Saskatchewan, I believe that they're going to be making a decision in 2024 on that project. But again, who knows if all of a sudden there's a negative decision and they don't go through with it. And what's the capex? Again, I'm vaguely familiar when I say that I'm familiar with the company and its projects. But anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you're talking with stocks like this, generally speaking, you're talking about absolute speculation versus investing. And we conduct research on a company, look for cash flow, revenue, and earnings, and look to make an investment over a 3 to 5 to 10 plus year span. And when you're looking at a company that has no revenue, no earnings, or just minimal revenue and nothing close to earnings. And I do note that both of the share structures of these companies, are already getting up to the 100, one's 200 and something million, there's not a ton of cash right now there with the share structures where they are in the business. They'll have to raise a ton to bring a resource actually online. There's a ton of things that can go wrong on the way towards that. I think people buy these companies because they want absolute blue sky potential. That's what they're looking for, to buy a company that's at 20 cents they think can go to $2 or plus, or, have those type of gains that, these type of investors who are, enticed into these type of blue sky potentials situations. Over the long term, the companies that actually produce blue sky potential are some of the, most boring businesses out there, or just good solid businesses that produce cash flow. And then you will get the returns you're looking at. And I mean, we have a company this year, and I talked about this company many times, Hammond Power, that they make transformers that steps up and steps down power, to steps it up to have it travel over a long distance, step it down to be in a charging station. They're used in every Tesla charging station. I mean, it's not sexy. That's a little bit about the sexier part of the story, but it's basically the best performing stock on the TSX this year. It's up over 300%. It's up 14,000% in the last 20 years. That is the type of return you're looking for when you invest in these companies. Why not buy a business that has great fundamentals, good solid cash flow and earnings, and hold on to that business rather than some company you're just crossing your fingers will hit a resource, bring it online. That's not investing, okay? Like, I get on my soapbox right now, but that is not investing. You're speculating. The more companies you invest in with that type, or put your money in, it's not investing, and you place your hard-earned dollars in companies like that, the more money you'll likely lose over the long term. It's like gambling in Vegas. The house always wins. That's what happens when you try to put money into these. I'm not even going to call it investing. When you speculate in these type of potential investments, buy great companies that you can buy that trade at low prices but have fundamentals. There are not many out there, but there are some. Look for them, or have some team of research analysts who looks for those and can do it for you. All right.
Just really pushing your point home. Royal Helium last Friday, since they can't obviously pay interest, they have no revenue, so they have no income, is they had to pay off some of their debt with shares in kind. So they're issuing shares instead of interest. So every single time that happens, your shares really lose value. You see that always in these exploration companies. Their stock price will just slowly go down and down consistently because they were consistently issuing shares to fund their operations instead of actually having some sort of income.
Yeah, it's 1 out of 200 plus that actually hit and become, a great company that you want to own. You actually have better odds in Vegas. And we say that all the time, and you'll have more fun. So if you want to speculate, you might as well go there. Why not speculate on a company that has cash flow earnings right now, that trades at low valuations, that can have that long-term gain in your portfolio? And we've seen that with many companies. They're just good, solid businesses that grow their cash flow over time, and they don't dilute you.